Welcome back to On Right Podcast. Here you have Elijah alongside Grant. We're going to dive into another football weekend, another Michigan weekend. Victory for both Michigan and our Lions here. So, we're going to start off with Michigan, which proven once again to be a second half team. First half we both were joking just a moment ago about how little more close than we wanted, little more sitting up in our seats than we would have thought in the first half. But I'm gonna throw it to you. Kind of recap that Rutgers game first.
Hmm.
How do you feel heading into the new rankings coming up in a couple of days here?
Yeah, no, I think I'll say I definitely took them for granted. I mean, obviously, if you look at the score, like we dominated, but I like Rutgers put up a little bit more of a fight than I thought they would. Um, Got to give them credit, just to, kind of come out, hit us in the mouth. I mean, we definitely, I just knew that punt was gonna get blocked as soon as I saw all the switching and shifting, like on the line there. They got to McCarthy a couple of different times, had him looking, but he weathered the storm, but definitely had him a little uncomfortable there for about a quarter and a half. Um, but yeah, once again, we just proved that we are a second half team. I think I saw that we've now outscored teams like 100-3 in the second half. So we're just starting to get to that. Yeah, I mean, we just continue to do what we've been doing. The defense, they make amazing adjustments, pretty much take away everything that the opposition is trying to do. We've been doing a great job of. I loved yesterday how we, had a good little dose of Corum and Edwards. Corum ran pretty well. Edwards, quietly had like 150 all-purpose yards in the touchdown. Just liking to kind of see, more of that. Just more even, carries between those guys. I think just up until we get to that Ohio game, you can give it to Corum all you want then, but yeah, I just like how, look decent on offense. I feel like towards the end of that game, we even kind of addressed some red zone issues. Got the ball in the air, able to get a couple touchdowns in. Might be something to, maybe take a little closer look at down the road. But yeah, I'm happy with the result.
Yeah, I think it was first half was just a gritty game. Once again, another team that came in with our number, somebody that wants to beat us. Another biggest game on their schedule once again, and it's that's week in and week out. So it was a night game. They're 4-4, a little bit of momentum, more or less, in the program, and they are well coached. They have an ex NFL coach, I believe. Greg Schiano was in the NFL for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well coached. Couple of well placed athletes. That quarterback looks like he might be somebody if he stays around for a couple of years. Big body receiver that they were just throwing it up to. That defensive line seemed, obviously that wasn't our number one unit all across the board on our offensive line side of the ball,
Yeah.
but their defensive line looked good. A couple of well placed players there also. So they had some pieces around. They were actually fairly skilled. And but all in all, we weathered the storm. You never want to see your quarterback taking hits like that. But I must say, that is how I want to see my quarterback respond from just getting blasted.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're, driving him into the ground, or he, for some reason, tries to lower the shoulder when he's running out of bounds. And that doesn't, there was several times on that where I thought he could have not got up, or he could have found a way to exit the game for a play or two. At one point he passed the ball, and the guy's deep defender hit him right on the hand when he was on his chest, on his non-throwing hand. You kind of seen him looking at his hand for a little bit after that. There was plenty of times there where it was he was just getting hit and responding, and that's something that made me like him even more. You're going to get hit in the Big Ten. He's a young quarterback, and that's what you want. Somebody that's going to stand in there and still run that show, run the offense. So
Yeah.
that's
I'll say
something I'm
too,
talking about. Yeah.
Rutgers, they had a top 15 defense. That's something that, like, at least it kind of learned or heard about during the week. So I wasn't really surprised. Or I guess they definitely threw us a haymaker, right? But they was able to, sustain a pretty, he had a pretty good game plan coming into that first half, and they're definitely not a slouch or one of them bottom feeders of the Big Ten anymore, like they were kind of struggling to be. And I'll say too, I think I feel like I saw multiple platforms, like many times when the last times we were out in New Jersey, we scored like 9 rushing touchdowns and beat them like 78-0. And I feel like my mind almost kind of was like, oh yeah, like Rutgers, like this is like, but they are building a solid program out there, it looks like.
No, they're building a solid program, and I think we came out there and did what we needed to do. I think we didn't run Blake into the ground. You mentioned that, and I think that's something that we're still playing a long game. We're still playing chess. And when you look at the lay of the land of how it's all playing out, I think I love our positioning in it all. I think we have a lot of momentum on a lot of things. It really comes down to what we know, beat Ohio. But I think the fact that we can, Blake has proven he can be an every down back, and you can give it to him. What's the most he's probably had in the game so far? Like 35 or so. Yeah. You can do that if you can get that done versus Iowa, number 2 ranked defense in the time if you have to. Or versus like a Penn State, he can go ahead and get to 20 carries, and Edwards can get you like a good 12, 15 carries, and it's just a 1-2 combo. And Edwards I know that's your boy. You talk him up a lot, but he can do a few things that Blake can't do. And stretch the defense and give him a few more things to think about. Him out of the backfield. He's already have a touchdown pass in his career. And they've said that if he wanted to be a receiver, if they needed to be a receiver, he could be in the mix as one of the best receivers on the team. So I think just that element alone, that's special. So that's going to be hard to defend. And, it's great to see Ronnie Bell. I think they said he's up to 40 passes caught this year. He went down very early last year. It's great to see him rebound and come back. And I think he'll be a solid pro, but we just have, we haven't really been full strength in quite a while. Roman Wilson's been banged up, or Edwards was banged up, or, whatever the case may be. We won't see Eric also be, this is the new norm without him, but, we're finding a way to get it done. We're finding a way to put up points regardless of how that happens. And that's what good teams do. They put points on the board, whether if the defense is stepping up or the offense is stepping up or a punt return or however that has to happen. You find a way to rack them up, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I love our, like, in this show, like, we have depth. This is something you haven't really seen, in the last few years. Prime example is the Hill Green. I don't know what kind of injury he has, but he was a starter last year. He'd been out this entire season. Michael Barrett, guy that was in his place, had a pick 6 and interception yesterday. Has had had a great season. We just continue to just like kind of be able to interchange that whole D line. Jalen Harrell was out, but we just, I saw Upshaw out there a little bit more. You saw McGregor out there a little bit more. I just like how, or even the biggest one, I don't think Jamon Green played a ton last week or this week just because of last week. And Will Green, I know the quarterback we were playing against wasn't the greatest, but I think there was a point in time where he was like, I'm not throwing this way. You know what I mean? Like, he really, Will Green got that one pick, and I feel like, I don't know, I think, I'm not, you don't ever love the idea of trying to kind of throw a freshman into the, I wouldn't say really threw him into the fire, been playing all year, but I was impressed by his play.
I agree.
I'm not going to sit here and try to say, like, we need to just, like, I know DJ Turner's struggling a little bit as well, but I just like, Will Johnson just being out there. He's 6'2", 6'3". I think he's been playing, some really good football the last few weeks. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how much more he's worked in as the season goes on.
Well, I like the idea of, similar to what we did with JJ or Blake or whatever, you see them in doses and doses, and then eventually it's their time to shine. So I'm not mad at that at all. I do think you highly top, probably our number 1 recruit coming in last year. So, I definitely think now's the time to get him out there, and why not, versus the Rutgers versus, maybe a little bit more versus Nebraska coming up, and just kind of ease them in so that, for whatever reason, worst case scenario, he's just more prime next year. But for whatever reason, if something happens, he can step in versus Ohio and not be completely starstruck, or step in versus Big Ten championship game and not be starstruck.
And honestly, it's not a bad idea. He's 6'2", their best receiver like 6'5". I don't love that matchup of DJ Turner. You know what I'm saying? I know we're gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen, but like, just from like
I think we can definitely dive into it. We obviously still can't look ahead too much, but I think that is, I think people think they can throw it up against his deep, and
Yeah.
and you know, you got to stop Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think, we'll see, and I think if Will Johnson's recipe working him in now a little bit, just to see, why not? But
Yeah.
overall, I think we put a 52, probably the third time this year we put up in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got to be averaging north of 38 or so, points a
Yeah.
game. So we're rolling and moving. Defense is fired up, and they really were the catalyst to get things rolling yesterday. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where that's a sign of a good team. No matter what, somebody's stepping up. One unit is getting the rest of the team fired up or stepping up when they have to. Or what I can think of very pivotal moments. Back to Iowa, when the defense just completely shut them down. The defensive line stepped up and looked like they had 4 NFL Pro Bowlers on it for one series. That was impressive. The back-to-back 60-yard rushes versus Penn State. I don't know if it was back-to-back, but it seemed like it back-to-back interceptions yesterday versus Rutgers. Or at least within a couple of series. Yeah.
I think we had 3 picks in like 5 series.
Yeah.
Something
So
like that.
just that little segment of football there is why the score was 52-17 and not 28-17 or
Right.
24-17, and we're sitting here talking about a late game heroics or something. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that overall, I'm tipping my hat 9-0. We're rolling. The table is set for us to be ranked into the playoffs. The table is set for like a 1-2, 2-3 matchup in a couple of weeks here. And I mean, it's great to be a Wolverine fan here.
Yeah. This weekend worked out perfectly. I mean, you got teams that are in the mix in that 4 to 7 range that didn't handle business, and we were the ones that are able to come out and handle business. I think just being able to just continue that dominance, just show obviously you want to see some improvements here and there, but I'll say from when the year started till now, I feel like there's less question marks on defense than there is on offense, and I think we were kind of flipped on that to start the season off. In some cases, I mean, I think offense, still kind of having them red zone issues, but I think they've kind of battled like the third and short. They're kind of figuring that out. JJ's starting to move around a little bit more, help with that. But defense, I mean, I think they're on pace to have more sacks than last year. Secondary still, have a couple question marks. And I just think not even question marks, just a little bit more repetition, move people around. Yesterday, and then they didn't even have their starting safety, Makari Page. So, but it's a good feeling. I mean, this thing is full steam ahead, and they're really, kind of hitting their stride right now. And yeah, just like the opportunity to have a couple more games here. Got Nebraska coming up. That's going to be a tough opponent that they should definitely take seriously. And I like where we're at, and you just looking forward to kind of seeing what it's going to look like going forward as far as just the progress and just kind of continuing to work on the little weaknesses we have here and there.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think time will tell. I think Nebraska's another team where you can't sleep on. Go up and they fired the coach. I'm not sure how they look since then. I'm kind of blanking on them, to be honest, but it's one of those things where you can't sleep on them. And another game to sharpen your tools on marching down to Columbus. So I feel great about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and then just to transition to a team that probably the complete opposite of this, but they pulled off a game today, and that'd be Alliance. Kind of an odd game. I'm not gonna say too much. I just kind of seemed like a game where neither team kind of really felt like they wanted to win. It was a weird game. So I'll throw it your way. I think I'm already kind of blanking on the final score. It's kind of an odd final score.
15-9.
9. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, I think we both sat on here a couple weeks back. It was like, this is going to be Green Bay's get right game, after if they lose to the Bills, or knowing they was going to lose to the Bills, whatever that looked like. But yeah, I mean, you had the first interception in the red zone for Green Bay, and then Hutch got that second one. And I'm just like, they were just doing stuff that's so uncharacteristic, and And on the flip side, I mean, I think we had a solid game plan. You know, it was just really just not like definitely not capitalized as much as we could have. Running game was solid. I will say I do feel like kind of like this 3-man deal going. I'd probably like to see Swift a little bit more. I don't know. It's just kind of. I mean, I know he's kind of been more in the past game. That's kind of more, his strong. He's pretty good at that. Probably a lot better than that the other guys are. But we did try to give it away though. I'm not gonna lie. Like I mean, and I think I just feel like the team is they're fighting so hard. They're fighting like hell to just like stay in games. We know like the level of talent. I mean, not that Green Bay has a ton of talent either, but like, we're mostly the least talented team in most of these matchups, throughout the season. And I mean, they were able to, respond after having their DB coach fired last week. And I mean, they pitched a, shutout essentially. I think Green Bay kicked 3 field goals and they were in the red zone like 6 times. So
Yeah.
it was impressive, but it was very shocking. Like, I didn't really understand what I was watching. Like I was very confused by it.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you. Shocking. I watching the game. I guess I started on the defensive side of the ball. Green Bay is kind of one of those teams where they're kind of in a funny, weird situation. Aaron Rodgers seems to be at odds with them. He's complaining about the receivers, calling them too young, saying kind of basically they don't understand the playbook more or less. Give me some help around here, and but then still down there, he went down there and turned it over twice in the red zone. So that's a completely different game.
Yeah.
If it was 15-9, then they tie it up if they just even kick 2 more field goals instead of throwing picks there. So, really a weird game. But I don't know. I don't know whether we should tip our hat to us on that being a positive or them on because they're kind of in a free fall. This is their 4th game in a row. A race to the bottom more or less. And between the two of us, so it's kind of odd, just a real odd game. But overall, it was good to see Swift kind of continue to be back for I think it's the 2nd or 3rd week back here. And I agree with you. He is kind of a rhythm back. He's one of them guys that he does need a few carries to kind of get into the groove, and then he'll go mess around and break one. He's not necessarily a 5-yard every down back, but if you give him a couple of series to get into a good rhythm there, he probably will bust you a good 20-yard run or 25-yard run. So I think you do got to lean into that a little more, and because that's kind of his specialty, and just become more of a scat back, big plays out of the backfield, things of that nature. So I agree with you on that. If he's healthy and ready to go, we need to use him. He had like 150 yards rushing at the start of the year.
Right.
Yep, and just kind of.
It is kind of weird. It could be one of them things where he's just kind of like not. I mean, he's been hurt. I'm sure Jamal Williams like just plays his ass off in practice. Is really, what I'm saying, like really, really fighting to continue to be relevant. But like Jamal Williams getting the goal line carries, like he's really starting to like eat into Swift's role quite a bit. But I don't know. I guess that's what it is. Like you hope that we can kind of get more out of Swift, get more out of that offense than just the 15 points that were put up today. But yeah, I mean, I think that. Yeah, I think it's a good takeaway. Just obviously it's hard to win the game in the NFL, but it's still just like I just kind of have a hard. We won't get too pessimistic, but still have a hard time with like Campbell going forward on 4th down again at like the 50, 45-yard line. Giving the ball back to Rodgers at midfield, and I mean we really just get we got lucky.
I agree. We got lucky, and why do that?
Yeah,
I really, really, really give him to him 50-yard line. I think like a minute and 40 something to go.
A lot of time.
Timeouts. That's a recipe for disaster. I mean, that's really going to not work out for you. Probably 7, 8, 9 times out of 10. You were in the lucky minority on this. And I just don't think that is bad coaching. Whether it ultimately worked out or not, that's bad coaching. That's unnecessarily risk. I'm not sure how many other times we went for it, but another to me egregious one is I believe it was the first series of the game when we went down the field, went for it on 4th again instead of kicking the field goal. Obviously we ended up winning, so it is what it is. But I think those are times where, then if you had that and you didn't go for it on fourth and didn't get a touchdown, and had those extra points, you have that buffer right there, so you couldn't have lost at the end of the game anyway. So,
Right.
I think that's the type of things I just think it's just proving that he's an inadequate coach.
Yeah,
And,
and it's a play.
and
Yeah,
I just don't know how much more we can do this whole charade thing. I just think he's not the answer. He's an inadequate coach, and whether he gets lucky a few times like this, this is like, the quarterback who throws the ball late over the middle after he reversed field and he happened to get a big play. You really don't want that. That is you got lucky really on this. So that's kind of what I'm looking for or that's kind of what I'm comparing it to with going forward on the fourth, giving Aaron Rodgers one of this generation's greatest quarterbacks.
yeah.
That's not going to work out for you. Aaron Rodgers aside, real quick, that's not going to work out against a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of teams. It's just.
It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I was even kind of surprised when the commentator was like, yeah, you really only have if you got a touchback, you only have a 20-yard net gain. And I'm like, I mean, they could have win the punt formation. And yeah, if they did that, that's another 20 yards they need to get. That's more yardage they need to get all the way downfield. I don't think they had one timeout. Gave him the ball with one timeout at $140, left, at midfield. I mean, I think, like I said, it's a win. But the one thing that is kind of weird about it is it's almost kind of masking what's really going on here. Now it's oh well, we were able to pull one out. So now it's he's gonna be back in this I'm not going to dog him today because he got a victory, but it is kind of masking what the real issue is at hand. I mean, there's a time where we came out back-to-back possession and threw on first down with the lead, in the late third, mid fourth quarter. Ended up throwing a pick one of those times. But luckily, the defense, I think overall it gets it's tough because as a team, I wonder how the team is responding to this. I think they'll say the right thing, oh yeah, we want the opportunity to win the game ourselves, but sometimes the defense is we're already injuries, struggling, can barely get off the field to begin with, stop giving us a short field. So it's interesting to kind of just see, or kind of know, how that makes an impact too. But like I said, I won't get on them today too much because they did pull it off.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we can't hammer it too hard, but just bad tendencies are bad tendencies. Mm-hmm. And this is a reoccurring pattern. This has cost us other games. And it just happened not to this time around. You shouldn't just, it's bad football coaching. So,
right.
But I think that aside, the defense did, it was great to see Hutch get another, just making plays. Hutch get an interception. Kirby Joseph, another guy. That was a guy that flashback to watch our draft review. That was a guy that was on my draft list. Stood out at Illinois. He seemed to be making plays. I think he had a pick. Definitely had a pick, and I think he had a pretty good pass deflection.
Pass breakup. Yep.
So, he is just players like that. And Rodriguez still, his arm got bent up all funny, and I thought he was gonna be out for a minute, but he's a strong dude, came back in. So, there are some things to be proud of on this team. And I think really what we have to begin to answer is if we had a better coach, what we could do with it. I think we do have some pieces around, and we have a lot of ammo with these draft picks, with cap picks, and with a not so super talented roster. I think we've already cost ourselves 2 to 3 games this year.
Right.
So just considering we won this, and we could probably be, let's be generous and say 4 and 5. I think it's kind of messed up. So
yeah,
that'd be right in the hunt. This sorry ass division, not division, but that'd be right in the hunt this year in the crazy year where everybody's, it's a toss up.
Everybody, a lot of these bigger teams are starting to kind of, just kind of fall off. Yeah, and I think, and I know after we that Dallas, before that Dallas game, we got Pascal finally back, Jerry Jacobs, Cora, we did end up getting a lot more depth on defense. I think that's kind of helped too, because even last week, I mean, I think they put up a little bit of a better fight than they have in previous weeks. And even against Dallas, they played pretty well. So I think the defense is starting to kind of trend in the right direction. But I think just at this point, it's enjoy this victory and just kind of see what they can kind of muster up from here on out. And but you do like to kind of see the rookies. It's kind of the individual performances that is make it. It is good to just see like that they were just able to pull it together and just win the other one today.
Yeah, and I don't think we've talked about this, but just to kind of throw it out here and sorry to kind of blindside you on this, but the hot trade, what he how do you kind of I guess the question I want to ask is, and this is the question I was seeing go around is, if we would have made the trade if we had a more competitive winning team, how do you feel about that? Would we have,
I think we were still trading. I think we would not have traded him if we had if we were like 6-1. I don't think that would have been smart to do. They probably just kind of say that as a safe face. Which it is what it is. I mean, I think we definitely talked quite a bit about how we had two tight ends drafted in the top 10 in the last 12 years, and they basically had, it was nuts. It was like identical stats to each other. And essentially I would say just didn't really meet expectations. So I don't think we would have traded him if we were 6-1. I do understand why we traded him, but I think the biggest thing for me, and I know we talked about it quite a bit, was just trading him within the division. It just doesn't really make a ton of sense. And then you kind of look at, I don't know. I mean, some people think too, which I kind of find interesting, is like people are like, well, like, when are we going to start paying people? Like, is there going to be a point in time where they do start extending people? Because that is, kind of a conversation that's what starts to be had here more. I feel like the next couple of years with Swift and, there's, some other guys, or some guys are just on 1-year deals, and we're just kind of in a weird spot to where everybody's kind of being evaluated, and it'll be interesting to see like how this team continues to unfold. But I was pretty sure Swift was going to go too. But I think overall with that Hockenson trade, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think we would have did it if we had a winning record, but I just hate that he went to Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I hate that he went to Minnesota as well. And the last thing I'll say about it is, and I hate it's rough, but I mean, I don't know what the market is for Swift. Banged up running back that can't seem to stay healthy. I mean, he's good when he plays, but he's not healthy. I don't know. We might not like what we heard about that. So it's best to see if we can keep him healthy on our team. I think that might be the thinking on that. But yeah, you're not lying about having to pay some guys coming up here. There's a few of them that are going to want some paydays. St. Brown, Swift is one of them. Obviously this is years out, but I mean, this is probably too many years out. But Hutch, I mean, there's some players that are probably that seem to be that they're going to be good players in the NFL that you're going to have to cut them checks if you're going to be competitive. But you have to make strategic as far as who you want to keep. And I don't know if the production he was giving us, if Hawk was going to be worth that ticket. So no, I agree. But if we could have kept him out of the division, I would have made it a little better.
Right.
Yeah, but I think take those picks, load up the defense.
Have to.
And I think we've proven that with the tight end production today, we can probably make it work.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You got anything else for the people?
That's all I got. We'll be back a little later on this week to talk Michigan and Nebraska and go from there. So
yes, sir.